Hey, what is up, you guys? Me, Sam Noble 198 again. Today I am doing a video telling you all about all the video games I beat in 2025. Now, 2025 was actually a pretty stacked year when it came to video games. There were a lot of games that came out last year, a lot of which I did not play, that hopefully I'd get to this year. We'll have to wait and see when December 31st rolls around how many games I beat, but 2025 I actually did way better than last year. I finished a grand total of 48 games, ranging from multiple different consoles, including 3DS, DS, Xbox 360, PS5, Xbox Series X, and Nintendo Switch and Nintendo Switch 2. So I did really well with finishing games last year. So anyways, let's get into this. So 2025 was kind of that year where I just said, screw it, I'm going to do better than I did in 2024, and I did do much better. 2024, finished 25 games. Not the greatest mile for me, but definitely I did finish some games that year that I wanted to. This year I finished way more. Now let's get into it. So the first game, I actually do not have a physical copy of. It's going to be a case for quite a few games on this list I don't have a physical copy of. But the first game I beat in 2025 was Neva. This was developed by the guys that did Gris from 2018. Really beautiful game, great art style. It's a really good indie game. It's very short, and I said, you know what, I'm going to start the year off with a short indie game, as I usually do every year. I beat a short indie game to start the year off. Like, I'll look up how long to beat on certain games. I'm like, all right, I'll beat that first. So I beat Neva. That was the first game I beat. Next up, the next three are actually from the Capcom Beat 'em Up collection. The second game I beat was The King of Dragons. Pretty fun little beat 'em up, not a whole lot to say. Battle Circuit, another game. I remember this one was actually pretty cool because it had different like mechanics and like styles you could do. The fourth game I beat was Captain Commando. This is the fourth and final game. The last game I beat off the Capcom Beat 'em Up bundle. Pretty fun, very simple, but nothing too crazy. Now, well, those were the first four. Now it's moving on to the fifth one, which is a game that a lot of people were actually shocked I actually beat for the first time ever, and that was with the remake, and that was Silent Hill 2. I beat this last year. I got it for Christmas of 2024, and I finally beat it. It was a fantastic game, one of the best horror games of all time. Very disturbing, very grotesque at times, especially if you know like what the monsters look like. But it was really, really fun, very terrifying, and I'm glad I finally sat down and actually finished Silent Hill 2. It took me a week or two to beat. I started it like a couple days after Christmas, and then I finished it like right at the start of the year. And Silent Hill 2 was great. Don't really think I need to say much else. The game's been talked about to death. So next game up I beat was on the Nintendo Switch Game Boy Advance Online, and that was a Zelda game, and that was The Legend of Zelda Minish Cap. I do not have a physical copy of this. But this was a great Zelda game. Really, really enjoyed it. Very cryptic at times. Maybe a little too cryptic, but I really love this game. Might be one of my favorite Zelda games. Really unique. I don't think they could ever remake it in the way like the original, because it would kind of take away, I guess, from the charm. So yeah. But that was the sixth game I beat. Now moving on to the seventh, I beat Luigi's Mansion 2 HD for the Nintendo Switch. I actually started this in 2024, but I did not really finish it until 2025. And I actually really enjoyed this game. I don't like it as much as the third one, and hopefully I'll actually play through the original on the Switch Online, but I thought this game did some pretty cool things. Thought the final boss was really annoying. Some of the bosses in this game were very annoying, and I still had fun with it, but I didn't love it as much as the third one. But I'm glad I finally beat it. I don't think it's worth $60, but it was pretty good for what it was. Next up, the eighth game I beat was Lollipop Chainsaw Repop. This is a remake or remaster, whatever you want to call it, of Lollipop Chainsaw. This was a game on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Pretty fun game. I got the bad ending, unfortunately, because I didn't know there was multiple endings, but it was pretty fun for what it was. Maybe, I don't know how rare this is going to be in the future, but I got this through limited run. That's a whole can of worms I'm going to open right now, but yeah, pretty fun game, very simple, nothing too amazing. Next up, I actually made a goal for myself in 2025, and that was to finish a couple series that I had started, and the ninth game I actually beat for that year was actually, for 2025, was Crackdown 2. I beat Crackdown 1 in 2024, and Crackdown 2 is much of the same as Crackdown 1. It's not a bad game. It still has some pretty fun moments, but it definitely felt like DLC at times, which is kind of the problem I think I had with Crackdown 2. It was still fun, but I feel like when it was a 3-year gap between both games, I expected a little bit more, like in terms of story and so forth. But it was a good game. I'd rate it. I gave it a B minus, which is like in my case a 7.5 out of 10. I still stand by that. The 7.5. Next up on my list of games I beat for the year was actually a game that I got in 2024 but didn't finish until this year. And that was a little game called Gravity Rush Remastered. Now, I had this digitally, but I really wanted a physical copy. And thankfully, Andrew, for my 26th birthday, found me a physical copy. And I love Gravity Rush. One of the most unique games I think Sony has ever made. It's a shame they don't really do games like this anymore. I would love if they did, but seeing as the tides and the leadership have changed over at Sony, it's kind of unlikely. And I really enjoyed it. I love Kat. Loved all the different characters. It was just a great game. Very charming. The level design was really fun. The open world was a little dull, but I really enjoyed this for what it was. It was a very fun game. Easily probably one of my favorite games that Sony made for the Vita, even though I never played on the Vita. I played the PS4 version, but I played it on PS5. So, alright, moving on to number 11, I beat Donut County. This was a short game. This was a good, I'd say 2 hours. Very strange game, but very unique one. It was a game where the best way to describe Donut County is you play as this, I guess, like hole, and you're going through the world. Pretty much, it's kind of like Katamari, where you're gathering up stuff and making the hole bigger. It's pretty fun. It's very unique with its art style. Kind of reminded me of like Steven Universe a little bit. So yeah, I'd recommend it. I think I gave it like an A minus. Probably drop it to an 8.5, but definitely really fun. Moving up, this was actually the 12th game I beat. 11th was Donut County, but the 12th game I beat for the year was Far Cry 5. This was a game that was on my backlog for a very long time, and I decided to beat Far Cry 5 because I hadn't beaten the Far Cry game in a while, and Far Cry games are often good, I guess, games to play when you're looking for something to sink your time into, and Far Cry 5 was pretty fun. It was fun exploring the whole Montana. It was pretty hard at first, but then as you get better and you get more upgrades, you get stronger. I really like this one. It's not as good as the third one. It's close to being as good as the third one, but I had a really good time with it. The gunplay was a lot of fun. The different vehicles and ways of traversal were really fun. So, yeah, Far Cry 5, probably my favorite since the third one, because I really was not the biggest fan of 4. Moving on to my 13th game I beat this year, and this was probably one of the biggest surprises to come out of 2024 for me, and that was Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Now, I'm going to be real, there really have not been that many great Indiana Jones games. I mean, there was the Super Nintendo game, I'm sure there were others, but there really haven't been as many Indiana Jones games as there are Star Wars games, you know what I'm saying? And this was actually a great game, very fun. It felt like the true fourth Indiana Jones movie we never got. It was great, and also it was cool to see Tony Todd one last time, because unfortunately he did pass away in 2024. So it was awesome to see him in this, and I just thought everything about it, like Troy Baker's performance. I know a lot of people give crap to Troy Baker. His performance in this was frickin' phenomenal. Easily one of the best games of 2024. One of my just biggest surprises come out of gaming in the last few years. So yeah. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle actually was pretty great. So, yeah. Trying to get my other pile right here. Next up was a game I really slept on in 2024, and that was Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2. Holy crap, this game was awesome. It was brutal, it was fast-paced, it was violent, and it made a guy like me, I'm not really the biggest fan of Warhammer, but this was so much fun. It looked great. It was like I said, brutal as hell. The gunplay was fantastic, and I want to see another Warhammer Space Marine game. This was pretty great. Hopefully, I think they have done DLCs, so I might have to re-download this and play those DLCs, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Warhammer 40k Space Marine. Even if you're not a fan of Warhammer, I would still wholeheartedly recommend this to anybody, because it is a great game. Alright, moving on to something that's not so much of a great game. Crackdown 3. I beat this on Series X, and this was the 15th game I beat in 2025, and I've got a lot to say about this. I said in my Twitter and Blue Sky thread where when I do a track record of how many games I beat every year. This one kind of baffled me at just how little it felt like they did with this franchise. Crackdown 3 is literally, in my opinion, in the same old dog, but no new tricks. Crackdown 3, I remember when they were announcing this game, they said, oh, it's going to be a big evolution of the franchise. It's not. It is literally exactly the same as Crackdown 2. And the thing was, this came out in 2019, Crackdown 2 was 2010, and this was a huge disappointment. Not even Terry Crews could save this game for being mediocre. It was a very big disappointment. It's like the first few hours are okay, but when you really get into it and like you get further in, you really realize there is nothing Crackdown 3 has to offer. So yeah, Crackdown 3, even on Game Pass, I wouldn't recommend this. And I do know the whole big thing they said, oh, just 100% destructible environments. Complete lie, it's only in the multiplayer, and I didn't even play the multiplayer because I don't think anybody is playing it anymore. Oh well. Alright, moving on. Actually, after Crackdown 3, I beat a game that was it was very, very short. It was only 5 minutes, and that was September 1999. This was a free game on Steam. I love the art style. It kind of has an analog horror vibe to it. It's on Steam for free, and I really like the analog horror aesthetic. I thought it was cool, the found footage, but unfortunately it's way too short for its own good. It doesn't really have... It's like, oh, that's it. It was cool for what it was. I'd give it probably a 7 out of 10 for how it made me feel. Or maybe I dropped to a 6, but yeah, I was a little underwhelmed by it. But it was still a cool tech demo, I'll call it. But I would recommend it if you're looking for something short and sweet. So, yeah. So that was the 16th game I beat. Now moving on to the 17th game I beat, and that was Donkey Kong Country Returns HD for the Nintendo Switch. I gave this game an A-. I probably dropped it to an 8.5 because there were a lot of frustrating moments in this game. For one thing, the final boss can chug my sack. It was one of the most annoying final bosses in a video game I've had in a while. But I still had fun with it. It was definitely very, very frustrating when I got to the ending. But I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it still. There's going to be another Donkey Kong game, which I loved. I really liked this too, but, definitely think there were some frustrating parts about it, so. Alright, moving on to game number 18. It was another Silent Hill game, and that was Silent Hill: The Short Message. Okay. I think this game has some good ideas. I just did not vibe with it, I guess. I don't know. It really was repetitive. It started to get really repetitive. I thought the chase scenes reminded me of the worst parts of Outlast 2, which that's not a good thing. One sec. And I thought that was kind of the weakest part of Outlast 2. And it's just Silent Hill: Short Message had a great story, not so much gameplay. So yeah. Anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for this section. So we're going to move on to, give me 1 second, we'll jump over to the next part. So, alright, here we are. Anyways, moving on to the 19th game I beat for last year, and that was a little game called Stellar Blade. Now, Stellar Blade was one of the biggest games to come out of 2024, and I did not pick it up until, well, I did pick it up in 2024, but I didn't really finish it until this year. This was a fantastic action game. It looked great. It was a lot of fun. I know they had Nier Automata DLC, but what I did not expect with this game is that when you finish it, you can't go back to the open world, which I absolutely hate. It kind of just goes off, but I really enjoyed it. It was a great game. The action was fantastic. I do think it started to drag its feet towards the end, but it was a really great action game that I would highly recommend to anybody if you're looking for a fun action game. The combat was great. It looked fantastic. Above all else, it was just an excellent action game, and I'm really happy I finally played it. So, all right, moving on. Now, the 20th game I beat for the year was actually a little weird because I actually finished it when I was at PAX East. And I bought this actually before I went to PAX East, like a couple weeks before. And that was a little game called Thor: God of Thunder for the Nintendo DS. Now, this is based on the first Thor movie from 2011. And I heard this for a while. This was one of the best Marvel games, and I'm gonna be real, it actually is a really good game. It's fun, has some frustrating moments, but it was definitely, I believe I've heard, this was like better than the console versions, which is weird to think the DS version at times often is better, well, more well received than the home console version. So I finished this. It wasn't like the longest game in the world. It was like a good, I would say, 13 hours took me to finish, but it was pretty good for what it was. Nothing amazing, but nothing like terrible either. I thought it was a pretty good game. Next up, probably one of the most iconic games, well, known games on the DS that I played on my 3DS, New Super Mario Brothers. I actually never finished this when I was younger. I don't really know how, but I finally did, and this was one of my favorite Mario games. It was a lot of fun, and I really, really did love the different things they added to make Mario more, I guess, like, into a newer generation when it came out. But it was very, very fun, very, very unique. I loved, there were some parts I thought were a little cryptic, like, you had to get, like, a mini mushroom to, like, there were some parts of that I was like, okay, that's a little stupid, but really enjoyed it. Great game, would highly recommend it. If you don't have a DS, if you have a DS and you don't own that game, what are you doing? Yeah. New Super Mario Brothers, great game. Now, moving on to my 22nd game for the year. And this was kind of where I kind of got... for whatever reason, last year, I really wanted to play some Spider-Man games. And this one was actually a white whale of mine for a little while. And that was Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions. I actually got this at PAX East. This game took me a couple weeks to finish because I was playing through a ton of other stuff like Clair Obscur, which I'll talk about in a sec, Doom the Dark Ages. But this was a fantastic game, great gameplay. It's a shame it's not available digitally because I would recommend this to everybody in a heartbeat, but right now it's kind of locked on the 360 and PS3 right now, which sucks, but it is what it is. But I really love this game. It was fun. It was a lot of great different sections and variety in gameplay. Would highly recommend this if you're a Spider-Man fan. And you're going to see I actually did beat more Spider-Man games this year, so let's move that here. Next game I beat was Doom the Dark Ages for the PS5. This was the 23rd game I beat this year, and I'm going to be real, I love this game, but I think there are some flaws with it. I gave it a 9 out of 10. Might drop it to an 8.5 out of 10 if I'm being real, or I gave it an A- on my Twitter, but I'd probably drop it to a B+. It's still a great game, but it's just not as good as Eternal, which I feel like the problem I have with Doom the Dark Ages is that I feel like it kind of goes, I guess, too big for its own good. And I still enjoyed it. It was still a great game, but I feel like there were some parts in it that really did annoy me. But it was still a very, very fun game, and I would recommend it. It's just, I think it kind of was one of those games that went on way too long. That was my only problem with it, but it still is a good game. And I would recommend it. So, moving on to the 24th game I beat. I actually got this at Too Many Games. This was actually a game I was looking for right after Shattered Dimensions when I beat it, and that was Spider-Man Edge of Time. Now, I'm gonna be real. I found this game to be pretty disappointing. It's not a terrible game. Like, I saw someone give it a 4 out of 10. I'm like, 4 out of 10? Did you not play Crackdown 3? But it just, this was disappointing because there were a lot of ideas it had that just did not flesh out. From what I had heard, it had a really short development cycle, and that really did hurt the development because I had some glitches, and I feel like there were parts of the game that feel like they were recycled from other levels. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. Honestly, I think I give this a 6 out of 10, which I still stand it and where it is. It has moments of being great, but it was still disappointing, which does suck because Shattered Dimensions was so good. So, anyways, yeah, it's a shame Edge of Time was so disappointing. Now, moving on to what was my favorite game of 2025, and maybe my favorite game, one of my favorite games of all time now, and that is a little game called Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is the Mirror Edition. I beat this actually, I had an original copy that I got from GameStop. I gave it to a friend so they could play it, but I got the Mirror Edition, which I did do an unboxing for, but I think I deleted the file on accident. This is one of my favorite games of all time. It was so good. This came out of nowhere for me. This actually made me fall in love with video games all over again. It really brought my love back, and it made me want to play more turn-based RPGs. Like, for a while, I played Sea of Stars, and I played a bunch of Mario RPGs, and then I played this, this was a masterpiece. If you have not played this yet, highly recommend it. I do find it a little crazy. It won Best Indie Game, which it's not an indie game. It's a double A game. That's a whole argument I'm not going to get into in this video, but I still love Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and would highly recommend it to anyone. It's amazing. Moving on to another game. It was kind of the Clair Obscur was a great game, but it was very dark and very depressing at times. But next game up was the exact opposite, and that was Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. I actually never beat the original Destroy All Humans on the original PS2 or Xbox, and this was a fantastic game. It was really fun. There were annoying parts of it, but it was definitely a very, very, very fun game that I feel like I needed after Clair Obscur. Not saying that Clair Obscur is not fun. It's great, but it's very dark and it gets very depressing at times, and it's not always the best for your mental health, but I still really love this game. Well, I still really enjoyed this game. I wouldn't say I loved it, but it was definitely really fun. So yeah, Destroy All Humans 2 Reprobed. Great game. Next up I beat was actually kind of a weird one because this is actually an expansion that got a physical release, so I counted it. And that was RoboCop Rogue City Unfinished Business. I played this on Series X because that's where I beat the base game Rogue City on. And this was a great game. There were definitely some annoying parts, and I feel like sometimes they would just throw enemies at you that were a bit bullet spongy. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. It was fun. It looked great. It looks just like the movie, and I'm thankful they got Peter Weller back to do the voice. He's of RoboCop in this, Alex Murphy. But hopefully they do, more with RoboCop, or maybe just a new IP after they're done. But I don't know if they have another game coming out. We'll have to wait and see. Next game I beat was actually around game number 28 now, and that is Mafia: The Old Country. A lot of people actually gave this game a lot of crap this year, and I enjoyed Old Country. It's not perfect. It definitely has its fair share of flaws. I feel like at times it's a little dated, but I really enjoyed it. I thought the characters were interesting. I liked the world they built up. I will say the final boss was a little anticlimactic. How it was another knife fight, but I still enjoyed it for what it was, and I'm thankful I finally got it. I mean, I went to PAX East and saw the gameplay reveal event for it, so that was actually pretty cool to see a live gameplay reveal event for it, but yeah. I enjoyed Mafia: Old Country. I'm pretty sure you can get it for, cheap now, dirt cheap probably, after all the Black Friday sales. Next up was actually a game that I had for years, and I actually got another copy of it sealed, and that is Sunset Overdrive. I played this actually, every time I played this when I was young, years ago, I would make it to a certain point and I would stop. Now I finally finished it. It's a great game, very fun, very chaotic. It still holds up pretty well too. There are some frustrating moments, but I really think this is one of the most underrated games to come out of the Xbox One. And I'm surprised not a lot of people talk about it anymore. Maybe some people think the humor hasn't aged well, which, yeah, the humor's a little cringe, but I really enjoyed Sunset Overdrive. It's a great game, and I would highly recommend it if you're looking for something fun or different. And plus, it's by Insomniac, the guys that made the Spider-Man games and the Ratchet & Clank series. Alright, moving on to game. That was game number 29. Now moving on, actually, this is from a compilation or a collection of games, and that was the Orange Box. I actually finished the first Portal, which I had never finished for years. And after I beat Sunset Overdrive, I'm like, I probably should play something short, and I did. I beat I beat Portal 1. Fantastic game, loved the humor. There were some puzzles that were let me scratch my head, but I really, really loved Portal 1, and I do want to play the Half-Life on here. I don't know if that's the best way to play it, but really thankful to get this, because I've had this for years, and I feel like now is a good time to play it. So, anyways, that was it, Portal 1. That was the 30th game I beat. Now moving on, this is another game I actually don't have a physical copy of, because it was free on Steam, and that was the Children of Clay. This is a very, very short stop-motion horror game. The whole premise is you get this little statue and you have to examine it and find out where the statue came from, what it's supposed to represent. And it was a really effective horror game. If you're looking for something short and sweet, I definitely would recommend this. It was very unsettling, very very creepy as hell. The ending, what it implies, you're like, holy shit, that's terrifying. But I do recommend it. It was very effective. It's very short, and also it's free. I think it's extra to get the commentary and stuff, but I would recommend it if you're looking for something, different in its style and atmosphere. So anyways, number 31 was Children of Clay. Now moving on to one of my favorite games of the year of 2025, and that was the 32nd game I beat, Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Holy crap, this game was phenomenal. One of the best games I played last year. The combat was fantastic. This might be my second favorite game of the year last year. It looked great. It was very, very fun. And I'm very thankful they brought back Shinobi, because I didn't expect them to do it this good. But it was fun. It looked great. Visually, it looked beautiful. And the combat was so freaking cool. Hands down is a game I would recommend to anybody. If you're looking for a game I feel like that was very underrated last year, pick up Shinobi Art of Vengeance. It's on Switch, PS5, Series X, Steam. Highly recommend it. So, now moving on to what is probably one of the best 3D platformers I've ever played, and one of the best games I think of the last generation, Donkey Kong Bonanza for the Nintendo Switch 2. Holy crap, this game was outstanding. It was the destructible environments were insane. Like, I've never seen that much level of destruction in a game in so long, and it was just so much fun collecting the different bananas, getting upgrades for your skill tree. I did not expect the skill tree to be in this game, and also the different forms you unlock, the different music. I'm surprised this didn't get a nomination for best music, but I am so happy this turned out to be as good as I hoped it was, and I'm so thankful to see Donkey Kong is back. One of the best games of the year, and probably one of my favorite 3D platformers of all time. Alright, moving on to another series that came back this year. This is actually the 35th game I beat this year. Hold on a sec, I screwed up real quick, party foul. The next game I actually beat was the 34th game I beat, which was a little game called Castaway. This is actually a Legend of Zelda-like, and it was actually pretty fun. It was very short. It was I think about less than 2 hours. But it was pretty cool. I want the developer to do another one. Hopefully they will someday. But we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. So, yeah, I wish there was another dungeon, if that makes sense. So anyways, let me take a swig of my water real quick, because we're actually getting close to the end of this, actually, as I speak. But let me take a swig of my water. Alright, now the 35th game I beat for the year was a little game called Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Really, really love this game. I think there were some parts where I was like, okay, that's a very bullshit thing right there. But I still enjoyed it for what it was. It definitely had its fair share of flaws. But it was a great return for Ninja Gaiden. I'm really happy to see it's back as a franchise. And this was a great, throwback to the 2D games. But I really, really love this game. It took me a little while to beat, because I did get my ass handed to me quite often in this game, because this game actually got pretty fucking hard. So definitely a great game. Would highly recommend it. Now moving on to, this game actually had its 20th anniversary last year, and I beat this for Halloween. That is a little game called Condemned Criminal Origins. I actually played this on my Series X. Great game. It has its fair share of flaws. I feel like there was a point where I kind of got soft locked into a moment and I had to go reload a save. But I thought it was a really, really good game. It's very suspenseful, very impactful. Definitely see why it has such a big cult following, and I hope one day we get a remaster of this for, Steam. We'll have to, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because right now it's been in a really weird limbo with how gaming preservation has been. So, and I know it's backwards compatible for the Series X, but unfortunately I don't think it's on Steam, which Condemned 2 is not on Steam. Maybe we'll get both these in a collection one day. But I will not hold my breath, because I don't know if that'll ever happen, because Monolith went out of business. Thanks, Warner Brothers. Now, moving on to another game that was on my backlog. I actually beat this on my 360. I did beat a lot of games on my 360 this year. And that game is a little game called Prototype 2. Now, I beat Prototype 1 on the Series X with the Prototype Biohazard bundle, but I'm going to be real. That is not a great way to play Prototype. It's not a great collection. It's got a lot of frame rate issues, a lot of, just graphical bugs. But I played this on the 360, and it is a great game. I think a lot of people give this game a lot of crap, but I think it's a much better game than Prototype 1. If you fight me in the comments, I think this game's better than Prototype 1. I will stand by that every day and any day. I think this game is a much better game than Prototype 1, so... Alright, moving on to the 38th game I beat this year, and that was Fears to Fathom Episode 1, Home Alone. I actually finished this 2 days after Halloween. I was like, you know what, I'm still kind of in the Halloweeny mood, so I'll play it. And it was a really short horror game, but it was very effective. When I played this game, I kid you not, it had the most ball-bustingly bowel-moving jump scare I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, oh shit, like it threw me off so bad. But it was a great game, very, very unique. I want to play through the other games in the franchise. This was just, as they call it, episode 1, so yeah, I'll probably be playing through that soon, so the next few soon, so. Anyways, moving on to my 39th game I beat this year, and that was Little Nightmares 3, which, I thought it was an okay game. Nowhere near as good as the first two, and unfortunately, I know the same developers as the first two did not return for this. I think they're making Reanimal right now, which I've heard the demo is really good, but definitely was really disappointed with Little Nightmares 3. It's not a terrible game, but it is a step down from the first two and what came before. Like the vibe wasn't there for the game, is what I'm trying to say. But not a terrible game, just disappointing. Alright, moving on to probably one of the most talked about games last year, and that was Ghosts of Yotei. Look, this game got a lot of crap last year. I loved it. And I'm not going to get into the whole, what happened with the main actress or anything like that, but I really, really enjoyed this game. I thought it was fun. I thought the combat was great, and I liked the story too. I do think it kind of played itself a little safe compared to the first one, and hopefully Ghost of Tsushima 3, if we ever get a third one, because I find it interesting. Are they gonna keep jumping forward through time, like different time periods of different samurai, or there's like different ghosts? Because that'll be cool to see. But I really loved Ghosts of Yotei. I don't love it as much as Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is still one of my favorite games of all time, but I still enjoyed this for what it was. So yeah, Ghost of Yotei was the 40th game I beat this year. Now let's move on to we're in the last stretch of games, so get ready for this because I'm going to try to go through this quick. So next game I beat after Ghost of Yotei was a little game called Pac-Man World Repack. The reason I beat this was because, for one, it was so short. I looked up, it was only like 5 to 7 hours if you don't want to find everything. I ended up finding more stuff. It took me a little while to beat it. It took me 8 hours to beat this. It was okay for what it was. It was a fun little platformer. It was very, very, very basic. If you've ever played this, you know what I'm talking about. But it's not a bad game. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10 for what it was. It was decent. Alright, moving on to probably one of the most insane games. This game actually reminded me a lot of Star Wars The Force Unleashed. In fact, I called it The Force Unleashed of Spider-Man games to one of my friends. And that was Spider-Man Web of Shadows. My god, this game is absurd. Now, I'll be real. This game does have flaws. I think the story is a jumbled mess. But this game I actually thought was really, really fun. And I'm surprised it didn't get a sequel, but then I found out it sold very poorly. But I really enjoyed it for what it was. It was very, very unique because of the whole moral choices. And this was like a year before Infamous. But I definitely would recommend this if you could find it for a good price, because I think it's one of those games that's not available digitally. Definitely would recommend it if you're looking for something, unique in terms of Spider-Man games. Like on the back, like it's on the back it says, how far will you go to save New York? Also, I got this at MagFest 2025, so one of the rare finds I had at MagFest that year, so. Anyways, next couple of games. Hold on one sec. Next couple of games, I actually beat on the Nintendo Switch Online, and the first one of those was the 43rd game I beat was Kirby's Dream Land. Never beat the original Kirby's Dream Land, and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was very fun. It was definitely not like the most extreme, most if this makes sense, like mind-blowing games ever, but it was definitely a pretty fun platformer for what it was. I really enjoyed it. It's not perfect. Definitely has its fair share of flaws. I think my only issue with it really was it was really short, even for a Game Boy game. And the next game I beat, game 44, Gradius: The Interstellar Assault. This is another game on the Game Boy Advance Online that I wanted to beat. Really fun little shoot 'em up. Nothing too crazy. But definitely was pretty fun for what it was. Alright, moving on. This is the 45th game, and I don't know if this really counts, but I beat the Grand Prix and I saw the end credits, and that was, I don't have a physical copy of it yet. That is Mario Kart World. I actually got this bundled in with my Switch too. Really fun game. I think the game is a little too simple at times, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. Not the greatest game in the world, but definitely pretty fun. I do think they need to add more modes and more content as the years go on for it to keep it really, really relevant. So, but we'll have to wait and see. Alright, now we're in the last 3 games I beat for 2025. These games ended up consuming my December. And the first game, actually, I got in September, but I didn't really start playing until the end of November around Thanksgiving. And that was Silent Hill F. Great game. Love the story. The combat's good. I just think it's a little tricky to figure out at first. But I enjoyed this for what it was. Thought the story was really memorable and how dark and disturbing it got. It was horrific at times. And it definitely had a very, I guess, important message into it. And I know if you play through the entire game on like New Game Plus, you get a different outcome and different endings, but I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't know if I'll replay it yet because I just kind of I've got other stuff I need to play, but definitely really enjoyed it. One of my favorite games last year. Moving on to the 47th game, the second to last game I beat, and that was Ninja Gaiden 4 for here. I got this actually on Series X, and this is actually a really rare copy, I think, actually. It's starting to get up there. But Ninja Gaiden 4 is awesome. It was incredibly fun. There were some, I think the final boss did drag itself out a little too long, but I still had a great time with this, and it was just so much fun. The combat was fantastic. It was fast-paced. It was brutal, and I'm so thankful Ninja Gaiden is back, so... This was actually the first 3D Ninja Gaiden game I ever beat, so take that as you will. So Ninja Gaiden 4, definitely would recommend, one of my favorites of the year. Now, the final game I beat for 2025, I actually beat this the day after Christmas, and that was a little game called Chronos: The New Dawn. This game came out of nowhere for me. I was like, it looks cool, but this turned out to be the Dead Space spiritual successor I did not know I wanted. It was a great game. It was disturbing. It was had a lot of different like great aspects to it. I do think sometimes I feel like it kind of started to get annoying. There was like the inventory. I don't know who the hell thought that was a good idea because the inventory management in the game was terrible. That was insufferable because you like every time you would upgrade it, you'd get like very, very little like little added space. But I still enjoyed Chronos: The New Dawn for what it was. It was hands down one of my favorite games of the year. And I would highly recommend this if you're looking for a new Dead Space game, because I don't think we're ever going to get another Dead Space game, because EA said, yeah, we're not doing Dead Space anymore. So, yeah, Chronos: The New Dawn, that's the 48th game I beat for this year. And, yeah. So anyways, those are all the games I beat in 2025. I did actually way better than I did in 2024, which was shocking to me because I thought when 2025 started, I'm like, I'm not going to do much better. I might do 35. And then when I hit 35 in October, I was like, damn, I'm doing really well. And I just kept going through my backlog, which, you know, I feel like that kind of does help in years where you just play, where I just played the games I wanted to play. I didn't rush myself to play many things. Like, I didn't rush myself to play Dispatch, which I'll play hopefully soon. Like, right now I'm playing through Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, about like 7 hours into that. So anyways, sorry about that, I had to take a swig of my water. But yeah, anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. This was a lot of fun to do, to show you guys all the video games I beat for 2025. Let me know in the comments what you beat last year, and you know what other stuff you finished, because I would like to know. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I will see you guys next time, and goodbye.